So Ankur Gupta, what can I say about this guy? We've known each other for a few months now. He's really impressed me, but I'm going to give you a little bit about him. So he's currently a Scrum Master at Sunlife. He started his career 16 years ago championing waterfall projects, and then he made the switch over to Agile because he saw how much waterfall was on the dark side. Just joking. But in addition to guiding successful teams, Ankar is the lead of the Sunlife Scrum Master Community of Practice. He also participates in Agile, Enterprise Agile training, and also Scrum Essentials. In addition to that, he holds various certifications. If you add them all together, they're longer than his entire name, which means that he's really, really smart. But ultimately, Ankar's daily goal is to learn something new every day. So we can please welcome our illustrious guest, Ankar, to talk about Agile, a square peg in a circular world. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for that, for the kind words and that warm welcome. Hi, everyone. My name is Ankur, and like Andrea said, I am very happy to be here, and I love to learn something new every day. I hope that today, at the end of all this, I am able to learn something new from you all. I'm sure you can teach me something that I can take away. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to get started with the findings that I have as a Scrum Master that I've been, in the last few years. I'd like to, showcase all that to you, and we're going to talk, how things have evolved and how I have evolved, and with this whole context, right? With this whole context of square peg in a circular world. Just give me 1 second. Let me share my screen. Okay, I'm going to put it present mode. All right. So welcome everyone. Before I begin, I just want to share my journey with you at how I got into this whole Scrum business, whole Agile business. So I graduated in 2005 as I am an electronics engineer. That's my profession, and then that's how I got into this IT world. I worked for an IT services company back in India when I first started, and I was very lucky that they made us walk through these different software development phases of testing. I have done some testing, manual testing, some automation. I don't know if you guys remember those CompuWare products like Test Runner and Load Runner. So I had some experience with that. I've also done some support work. I did level 1 and level 2 support. And sorry, just give me a second. Okay, right. Is this better? Can you guys hear me well? Is this better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
All right, perfect. And okay, let me just plug this one back in. Thanks. And then I also did development. I started as a developer on a project. We did some Java coding. I also did PL SQL scripting. We wrote triggers, and also business requirement. And when we were doing this, we will also introduce some of the management concepts. So I was very lucky and very fortunate to have gone through all these different phases of how a project gets started, and you start working on it, gather requirements, you actually do the work, and then you do testing, and then you finally release it. Loved it. I had a key, when they talked more about project management concepts, that piqued my interest. I heard the word SWOT analysis, and that was like, oh my God, that sounds really fancy what it is, and that's what got me hooked into the management side of things. So I have a lot of learnings when it comes to, excuse me, I have some other certificates that you don't see here, which is good, which is more so from a project management side of the world. But yeah, I worked close to 7 to 8 years in the waterfall world, and I was doing great. Then I decided to come to Canada. I enrolled myself in a master's program. I did my master's in computer science from Dalhousie. And then I was lucky enough to get to work on some Boeing projects and got into IBM. Now, this is the turning point in my life, that IBM is really, it's big on training its people, and whether it's design thinking or whether it's, agile ways of working. And there I heard the word agile for the first time, if I'm being honest with you all. And so I was, I was interested, like, okay, well, this is something similar to manage project management, but a little different. So what it is, and then they explained to me that we are all working together. There are no steps, there are no handoffs. It's all of us working, collaborating together by, on a product, making sure that we produce something that is meaningful for our clients. Whatever decisions we make those in light that the decisions we're making today is going to help us build a product that will be more useful for our client. So, and then working together, no hands off, collaborating together. So that really piqued my interest into, okay, this is so new. Like, I always thought that like this, that when I get a work packet, if I understand what I have to do and I do the best job I can, and I do a handoff and give it to the next person in the queue, I think if we all do work like this, there won't be any problems. But in real life, that's not how things work. And then I started looking into Agile, got more familiar with it, and more familiar with Scrum, and then this whole Agile manifesto, Agile principles. I got so hooked onto it that I never looked back. Every project I wanted to do would be an Agile project. So that's how I got started into this Agile business. And ever since then, I've been in Agile teams as a dev team member. So I'm cut from a technical background, and right now I'm a Scrum Master. It's been 2 years that I've been coaching Scrum teams at Sunlife, and I've witnessed two stages, two phases for now. I've witnessed the dev team phase, and I am experiencing the Scrum Master phase, and there are so many things that happen. And excuse me 1 second. Okay, so there's so many learnings that I have, and there have been times where I question myself: Am I doing the right things? Am I the square peg in the circular world? Am I doing the right things? Am I wrong, or what's going on? So I'm going to share some of those findings with you. So that's a bit about myself. I'm going to go. So we've seen this Agile manifesto. I am not sure. Andrea, I see a small yellow box that says, "Please move the window."
Yeah, it's fading away now.
Okay, good.
I've never seen that before, but
Well, no
but we
worries.
keep moving. We keep moving.
All right. So you guys have seen the Agile manifesto, right? You all know what it is. It helps us build the Agile mindset. I am not going to drill deeper into it. We all understand the four value streams that we're talking about, and there's more value on the items on the left than on the right. We train people to understand how we work when it comes to Agile ways of working. What is an Agile mindset? What are the Agile ways of working? We bring in good guidance. We train them on some of the commonly known Agile frameworks like Scrum, Kanban, and extreme programming. In spite of all this, I'll be very honest with you guys. I've witnessed so many anti-patterns, and I can't wrap my head around, like, why do these emerge? So I'm going to talk to you about some of the anti-patterns that I've witnessed in my next slide. For example, this first cartoon that you see these early men, three early men. Um, so this is something I observed. So I talked to my team about sprint retrospective. I told them, guys, retrospective reviews is for us to inspect the product that we're building, and retrospective is for us to inspect the way we're building this product, how we are working. So it's a great opportunity where we make improvements. If something is not working for us, we change it. We at least try some things out to see if that makes a difference. Sometimes I will be very honest with you. Teams say that we don't need a retrospective because I think we're doing great, or we don't need to improve, or we're just too busy, which is so weird to me when I hear that. So, as a coach to the team, as a scrum master to my team, I always tell them, true, I'm happy to hear you're doing great, but I'm sure there's some room for improvement. We could look at some of the things that didn't go well this last sprint and what we can do about it. That's something I witnessed firsthand. It's really frustrating when when your dev team or your scrum team tells you that we don't need retrospective. Another good example is the daily stand up. Not Sometimes people don't attend it, the daily stand up or the daily scrum, and the quality of conversation that happens in those ceremonies is sometimes it's just sad to see what people are sharing. For example, they will talk about, this is what I did yesterday, this is what I'm going to do today. Or, they would just go like, I attended this meeting, I attended that meeting, I talked to this person, and today I'm going to continue working on this item. to that, I always to go back to my teams and tell them, guys, it's not about status update. So I don't need to know. You don't have to tell me what you're doing. You have to tell each other, right? As a team, what are you guys doing that's going to help you achieve the commitment that you made to your product owner at the sprint planning or the sprint goals, right? Are you making progress towards those goals? And if you are, that's excellent, good job. And if not, then is there any potential risk that you see that might prevent the entire team from achieving that goal? So impediments. So do you see any challenges, any blockers that we need to unblock? That's the whole point in having this ceremony. Again, it's not a meeting, right? We saw that caption where the dog was dragging dragging the kid, and somebody said, "Get back. You need to be part of the daily scrum or daily stand up." So it's true. The call, sometimes people don't attend, even though we are sharing with them the importance of daily scrum call. Still, I see, I witnessed that not everybody attended. It's weird. I just can't. I cannot wrap my head around. And then I don't know if I'm not sure how many of you have scrum trains or you work as part of a scrum team. But this, the figure that you see, the burn down chart, this is the worst one that I see. People do not update their stories, and then suddenly at the last day, we find that the team has made so much progress, which is really weird to me because this is like it looks like Agile is the new waterfall to me. And so I asked my teams, guys, what happened? Did we really got blocked all the way till the last day and then we made progress? And the team was like, no, not really. We just forgot to update Jira. We're sorry, Ankur. We will make sure we don't do this again. But it's weird that this happens multiple times. Yeah, it's sad, but it happens. So this is another pattern that I observed. And then there are some patterns like, this one where you have hierarchy within teams. I've noticed that too. Like let's say we have an SDA, a subdomain architect, we have a designer or a tech lead, we have a developer, we have a UX person, we have a let's say we have a database person, a testing person, you know, and you have some work to do. It's weird when the SDA says, well, I'm the architect, so I will not code. If I talk to the designer, they say, well, I am the designer, so I am not going to code. I'm going to create a design and get it reviewed by the SDA. We have a developer to do this. So at the end of the day, testers refuses because it's, well, I come from the testing department, so I really can't code. And if you have problems, you can talk to my first line manager. We're not supposed to code. We're just supposed to test. Now, this is again a weird thing to hear. As a scrum master, it's frustrating because when we do the agile 101 training, we clearly say that polyskilling is big. A team is self-organized, is self-managed, and you should have all the skill set required to produce the product. um, Not necessary that one person has all these skills, but at least polyskilling. Scrum teams are big in polyskilling. What if that developer had to go for a 2-week vacation or something? Who's going to code? Right? So you can't create boundaries, otherwise it becomes the same stuff. It's the waterfall approach, right? We don't want to do that. People do that. So these are some of the anti-patterns. Another good example is where we talk about Scrum. We say the 3 pillars of Scrum is transparency, inspection, and adaptation, but then some folks are just too nice. They don't want to share exactly what's really going on, and they just put a happy face and they hide the details. Wrong. Scrum is based on transparency. So and on also the 5 Scrum values, we have openness and courage. You're defeating the whole purpose of having a Scrum team if you're hiding details. That's against the openness Scrum value, right? If you do not have the courage to say or do the right things for your project, you're going away from the courage Scrum value. So no, please don't do that. That's another anti-pattern that I've observed with dev teams. And that there are 2 more that I have on the screen. These are some things that I've witnessed personally firsthand, and I just feel sad. Like there's this one guy in the team who's like, man, I really need that promotion, so I'm going to do what my PO tells me to do. And if there's some other person from business or some other higher executive, they ask me to do them a favor, I will do it regardless because I really need to get that promotion at the end of the year, which defeats the Scrum value of focus and commitment. Your focus, all work should funnel through the product owner, but still, people ask favors and dev team members do give them, they do that work for them, which is wrong. again, frustrating as a Scrum Master. And then the last one that I have here, pointing fingers, right? The blame game. Instead of understanding the problem and then, and getting the trying to understand the root cause of this problem, why this problem is happening, people simply point fingers and say, well, it's because of the UX guy. He did not give us the wireframes, in a timely fashion, so we couldn't do anything. We don't have a working increment. Or maybe the TCOE person, the testing person, point the finger at the developer saying, you didn't code it ahead of time. So now I have just one day to do the testing and I can't. I don't want to rush my testing. That's why we don't have a working increment, right? So I've observed all these anti-patterns in my tenure as a Scrum Master, as a dev team member, and I just can't wrap my head around like why people do this all the time. This is like we are Scrum, but you know what? We're still going to carry the old bad habits from that we've had from the previous waterfall world into this new world. Even though we train them, we tell them not to do this, we tell them that about, we teach them, coach them about the Scrum values, the importance of that. We tell them this about the ceremonies. We tell them why these ceremonies are ceremonies and not meetings. You don't have to attend them. You have to actively participate. It's like your marriage. You can't skip your marriage, right? You can't skip the ring ceremony. So these are ceremonies, not meetings, but still people sometimes don't show up at the daily Scrum because, well, yeah, I will show up tomorrow, I'm sorry. But you know your your team will not show up to the retrospective. They don't want to do retro because you don't want to improve. That is so weird. So these are some of the anti-patterns that I've observed with the dev team. It doesn't stop here though. It continues if we go to the business or the product owner level. Sometimes in I've my personal experience with one agile team was at my organization was that the product owner was not empowered enough. The product owner's boss would come in and tell us what to work on the business epic, and the product owner is sitting right there, like, which was so weird. Like, why is the product owner not sharing this with us and not explaining to us what is the business vision and what do they expect, rather than their boss coming in? Hey, you should be the product owner instead. If if you think you're the one we're going to talk to, then the PO's boss should be a PO, really. That's one end of the spectrum. If we go to the extreme other end of the spectrum, we have the product owners that are just have so much power. I don't know if you guys know this, but you guys remember Spider-Man? Do you? Yeah, you remember the phrase, with great powers come great responsibility? Remember that? So that's what I share with my team, with my PO, with everybody, right? So if you have a lot of power with you, that means you have more responsibilities, not that you're going to misuse. I had a real example where I had a product owner, and then he made us work on a business epic, and then that business epic, we did the design, we did the development, we did the testing, we were ready to release it to production. Something for our call center folks, it's going to improve their life like crazy, because the application that we just upgraded will provide so much more details compared to what already the application provides. So we did that, we worked on that business epic, and then we're not releasing it. We asked, okay, why are we not releasing it? We're expanding the work in progress. If we don't, we should, you know, Scrum framework says that at the end of 2 weeks, or multiples, we agile principles say we should release as often as we can, right, and as quickly as we can, with preference to shorter time scales. But we are not. We are still holding on to that piece in the lower environments. We don't want to release it. So we asked the product owner why, and the product owner is like, well, I will decide on that, so you don't have to worry about it. And we are questioning, did you not do release planning? Like, you made us work on something that you're not releasing to production, which is weird, because you spend all this energy and time into building a product that nobody's going to use. And why did we work on it in the first place? So every time we had a retro, we raised this question. We have a work in progress item that's ready to be promoted to production. Why are we not doing it? We raised it so many times. Finally, the PO came in and is like, well, this is the real reason. I'll tell you guys. I was trying to sell an idea to business, and that's why I made you work on it. I am still I am not getting a positive response from them, so I'm still working on it. And we were like, why did you not share this with us at the beginning? Like, we would have It's not that we're questioning your power or your authority. We just want to know why are we not releasing something that's ready. It's potentially shippable and can be consumed right away the next day. So the product owner, they realized the mistake. They said, well, you know what? I should have done that. My apologies. I've learned my lesson. I'll make sure I'll be more transparent and clear when I come with a business epic next time. So that was an easy case. There are other difficult cases where it's difficult to talk to business to tell them, well, I think we are moving in the wrong. We are on the wrong path. We need to, you know, understand where we are, and we need to make some adjustments so that we get back on the right track. Another classic example of anti-pattern when working with business that I experienced is we've had some meetings that were just garbage, this aesthetic meetings, where one business line of business or one product owner was just trying to show off that they have an agile team and they work in an agile way. And we're here for you. Just give us the, let us know, give us the specs what you want, and we can build it for you in two sprints or so. So the meeting was just a waste of time, which was sad, but this happens, right? So these are some of the anti-patterns that I personally witnessed as a deputy member, as a Scrum master. And then I questioned myself, what am I doing wrong here? Like, why are my teams going in and uncovering stupid ways of working when clearly the Agile Manifesto is meant to uncover better ways of working or better ways of building the software product? Why do these anti-patterns exist? Am I doing something wrong? Am I the square peg here in the circular world? Like, what's going on? So I questioned this to myself, and I'm putting this forward to you too. Does anyone have anything to comment or any feedback here? What do you think this happens? Does this happen to you, or is it just me? It just happened to me.
It sounds like all the issues that you were describing are coming from the fixed mindset versus growth mindset. Agile requires growth mindset, somewhere where you can adjust and be willing to change. And I think perhaps in the beginning, when the team was being formed, there was not enough time dedicated to forming the team in the proper way, where everybody had a chance to, commit to this mindset, to learn something new and grow, and being open to poly-skilling, like what you were mentioning, and working as one team, and all of the things that kind of brought you to the issues that you were describing.
Yeah, true. Definitely, growth mindset is very important. So growth, I don't know if everybody knows this, but growth mindset is that new skills can be learned and can be attained if we are if you're willing to learn and practice them, and we're willing to change ourselves. Like, this person coming and saying, well, I'm a tester. I am not going to learn how to code or how to write user stories. No, not true. You can learn. Why not? Like, we are born in this world, and then we, get educated, and then we learn new skills. So it's not impossible. It's just you have to put in extra time and effort. True. So that's true. It stems from the fact they don't have that agile mindset or growth mindset, to be honest. That's true. And so this happens to you, Tatiana, right? This you've experienced this, you've witnessed this somehow, right? In your organization or your way wherever you work.
Yeah, I'm actually at Sunlife too.
Oh.
And well, I haven't worked myself on an agile team, but I was leading teams of publishers on various projects, and kind of tend to organize team with this kind of agile mindset, although we're not technically called agile teams. And yes, like from myself as a lead, as a team lead, I dedicate a lot of attention to motivating people and sharing the purpose with everybody, keeping transparency on the team, and actually this the flexibility and willingness to do the work comes from this transparency I find with people that I work. And if you tell the why you're doing something, and it can be a simple task that you're just given for today, right? Like if you share the reason why you're doing, if everybody's seeing the big picture, I find that people are willing, they become more creative, they throw in suggestions, and so they're willing to pick up and do something outside of their responsibilities. Yeah.
True. Anyone else has any comment or anything they'd like to share?
I have a question. So
Yep.
in your I guess what I would say is in your experience, what is it that changes? Is it that the organization now changes to agile, the square peg? Is it that agile, or we morph agile into the round hole? Or like what happens after you keep persevering, you keep pushing along, and people start eventually taking on that mindset?
So that's a good question, Andrea. When I have to face all these anti-patterns or negative, non-agile ways of working, right? I go back to my training. I go as a Scrum Master. I go back to see what is Scrum and what are the Scrum values, right? I just try to practice those Scrum values with 100% devotion and dedication. I am transparent to my team as an example. Like when folks don't attend, I'll give you an example. Like I had a person on one of my team, and they did not want to work in an agile team. To be honest, that is what it came down at the very end of it. So we had a lot of problems from this one individual. Initially, those were questions, and which was good because when somebody asks a question, you're like, okay, great, somebody's taking interest. Let me explain to them. I remember that we were doing a session of refinement, and then suddenly this person said, "You have to write the user stories for me, Ankur." And I'm like, "What? Why would I write the user stories?" No, this is how it's done in Scrum. You, as Scrum Master, supposed to write user stories. And we're having a lot of people in that meeting. We have the PO, the project sponsor, and business stakeholder as one of the business stakeholder that we were working with on that epic. So that was so weird, and so it made me very uncomfortable. So this is how I went about it. I'm like, okay, this is clearly an anti-pattern where somebody is telling me how things are done, whereas it's not the case. So this was my reply to him. I said, listen, I can show you how to write user stories. I can give you a good example. I can give you a bad example of how to write user story. I can give you some approaches like the invest model or the 3C approach, and there's so much more. Like from a technical perspective, I could break the epic down into stories, help you break down that epic so that it's more meaningful and you can take that and consume it. I was just being honest. I was being open. I was being honest and transparent about it. And that's what I was doing. So in my reply, in how I was responding, these two attributes were being reflected. And then I said, well, and I could, if you want, if you still insist, I can write the story for you. But you know what, man? If I do that, I think that you can write a better story for me because you're closer to the work. You know more about your work because you're the SME of that, of that area, and you know more than me. So even if I try to write a user story and then you try to write the same user story, you will have more details and we'll have more coverage. We will have a better discussion, better refinement if it comes from you, from the story that we discussed that you write versus me. So tell me which approach would you like to go with? It's like, okay, fine, I'll write the story. So I think this is Tatiana mentioned, briefly touched upon this. You explained to them why we're doing something a certain way. So I did some of that, and that helped. But there were so many more examples and other incidences. So it came out. So I talked to their manager, first line manager, like, well, I'm not getting 100% from this person. So they told me later that this person has already expressed a desire to work outside of a Scrum team. So that's why you're getting this. So I got good support from the person. We worked to get a waterfall project for this guy, and we got a replacement for this person. And the moment the person we got back was someone who was really interested in working in an agile team. they were very excited about it. They wanted to work in it. We gave them that opportunity, and you will not believe the amount of work that we got done. We got so much appraisal from our project sponsor, from our internal clients for whom we were building the product. We were able to progress so quickly just because someone was reluctant to work in an agile way. So I don't know why they didn't want to work. I did not dig into it, but you know, it's true. Being transparent really helped. Um, any other question, comment,
Yes.
anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Ankur. I've been taking so many nuggets from this. You have no idea. I do have my questions, but I just want to, throw it out to the whole group. And I've been enjoying this so much. But if you do have questions, please let us know. You can type it in the chat. You can unmute yourself. It's not a taboo. And you can ask your questions as well. We're looking for different scenarios, different situations, different mindsets. We're all here to learn. We're all here to throw things at the wall to see what sticks. And we're all here to abolish different notions or, shed more light on, whatever it is that we're currently facing, which might help us. Mo, you have a
Yeah,
question or?
I got a question.
Okay, sure.
Was going back earlier in Ankur's presentation. He actually mentioned about during the stand-ups and the daily scrums that there wasn't a lot of quality content being shared amongst the teams. It was more like conveying, this is what I'm doing today, this is what I'm gonna do tomorrow, this is my plan. And I've kind of seen that as well. Cole, I don't know if you kind of experienced that too. And yeah, within the Walmart framework, find that the quality of the inputs is kind of mundane. You stand up in the morning, you're just kind of going over what we're gonna do, what we're gonna do today, what my plan is, and really that's what we've kind of been bred to kind of say. This is what kind of just to validate what the day of work is going to be. Do you think, and this is a question to Ankur and to the group, is that do you feel that if we kind of spread out the stand-ups? I know one thing that we've done, and this was actually a suggestion from Andrea back in the days, that we've scaled it back from 5 days a week to 3 days a week. So we have instead of Monday to Friday, we moved it to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And we found that it did help a bit with the quality of the inputs that were being shared in the stand-ups. So I just wanted to see the group's ideas of if they've experienced that and if that's something that they feel that it would help with the quality of the communication during the ceremony.
That's a good question, Mo. Does the group have anyone would like to answer that, or any comment?
Well, I have a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're practicing Scrum and you have a 2 weeks sprint, it doesn't hurt to have that daily stand-up every day. 15 minutes, people just talk about what they're working on. If they have any impediments, they can bring it up. So I think it's more about coaching the team to understand why we do the daily stand-up. Like Ankur rightly said, is not an avenue to come and give status reports, but it's like you meeting your team members and you're just talking about, okay, this is what we committed to. These are the troubles I'm having, getting things done. And then the Scrum Master will be there to try and remove those impediments. So I don't think it hurts to do it daily if it's just a 2 weeks run, right? Or a shorter sprint. So usually I think it's something you need to have as a team so you're aligned. So that's just my take on it.
Thank you, Ashim. I see someone else in the chat as well. Charlie says, I've seen teams try that and then come back to 5 days a week after they truly felt the value in them.
Interesting, yeah. I had a similar experience. So we tried twice per week. So we had a 2 week sprint, and we were like, okay, let's go and meet on a Tuesday and a Thursday. So this is when I was a dev team member. We hoped that with that we might get more rich content or some real progress, right? But sadly, the people who actually worked, who were actually interested, who understood the value of daily Scrum call, only they continued to provide a rich, meaningful, progress that they've made, sharing it with the team. But the other people were, they were still following the same pattern. So that mistake, instead of repeating it on every day, now was getting repeated only twice a week. But it didn't go away. One time, there was a girl in this in my dev team, and she was new, and she said, I had a meeting with this person, and then I had a meeting about another project. I got so frustrated, I stopped the daily scrum call right there, and I just explained that this is not how we should be doing daily scrum going forward. Because you guys need to understand that we're not here to talk about our daily routine. We're not here to talk about, who are the people we are meeting with. No, I don't want to, I don't want you guys to share that. I want you guys to share the progress you've made towards your sprint goal. So then they were asking me all these questions. Okay, Ankur, I met with this team to understand the UX best practices, right? For our business epic that we're working on. So that is related. So I'm like, yeah, it is related. So say it the right way. You don't say that you met with the UX team, you had a meeting with the UX team, and then you were working on this other story. Say that you met with the UX team. What was the purpose of that? And that you reviewed the UX wireframes with them to make sure that they are good from a UX design or standards perspective, so that now we can start building the actual page for that functionality. So say it in the light of what you're trying to achieve for that sprint, so it becomes more meaningful and purpose. So there were some examples like that I had to correct as an SM, and it worked. Like the quality um, was up. It was more meaningful. Like if you're listening to their daily Scrum call, it was more meaningful rather than, I attended this meeting, I attended that meeting, and I'm working on this story. There's still work left, so I'm going to continue working on this story. I'm like, no, you got to share the real progress, the real stuff you did. What did you do when it comes to that I worked on this story? Share that work that you did with the team. So that's just my 2 cents. I'm sure other people may have other experiences. Anyone would like to share anything?
Talking about daily Scrum, it sounds like you're describing the round robin style of daily Scrum. Have you heard of walk the board? I attended a presentation that compared the two of them, and it sounded like walk the board is a more preferred approach for some teams, where they discuss the stories from one side of the board to the other, usually from left to right, from right to the left, and that way everybody can be engaged rather than people waiting for their turn to speak. And when they waiting for their turn to speak, they don't listen to other people, right? But when you're all discussing the stories, then everybody can chip in and tell their side of how they contribute to that story.
Yeah, from our product standpoint, Tatiana, we are practicing walk the board. And for the most part, you would just reference the story number or the title of the story, and then you would just do a quick blurb if that is what you're working on. And I kind of pigeonholed it a little bit more stronger than I should have. There is some good dialogue that comes out of it. I find that for the most part, you're just talking through, I'm going to be working on this story today. I'm going to be working on or meeting with this associate. That's where when Ankur said that during his presentation, it kind of triggered something for me, is that that is an experience that we have. At times there are good dialogues when, if the team is engaged and are actually actively listening to the updates from the other team members, there is a trigger that happens to kind of say, hey, I did meet someone else on a similar topic, and then it kind of causes a dialogue. So in that sense, it does provide that fruitful input still, but those are kind of few and far between. I was wondering, does anybody have any tools or tricks in their tool bank to kind of say, how do you engage those conversations a little bit more frequently rather than kind of just happening, at a fluke level, really? But that's a good suggestion there on walk the board.
Yeah, true. So does the product owner also attend the daily Scrum for folks?
Yeah. For Walmart, it's common practice.
Yeah, so that's good. This is what I've experienced that when the PO is attending the daily Scrum call, suddenly the updates become more meaningful and more geared towards the sprint goal. And so that's something that I've leveraged, to be honest, and it works many times. But yeah, people have this habit, lazy habit of going back to this is what I did, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to continue working. I think Tatiana mentioned the board, right? You talk about the user stories rather than going round robin. That's really a good approach as well. We So my team tried that too, but this is what I find weird though. Again, this is just an anti-pattern, and when they start talking about a story, at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, this is my update on it. That's it. Not like they do the same thing. Like my piece is this much, and I'm reporting on that piece. Like we don't want that report. You're not reporting to anyone. We just want to collaborate to understand how much work or how much more days it'll take for us to, get this into a done state. Um, I don't have a silver bullet, to be honest. Like this is just something I noticed. We bring in the PO that helped, and then bringing down the sprint burn down is something that I do. Well, like guys, it's been 3 days. Are we saying we have not made any progress? We have not finished any story, something. So I actively participate in the as a dev team member. If I see that the quality of the content is going down, or we're not getting we're not making progress as quickly as we should be, like based on our velocity. So we kind of have those discussions. Okay, I go like this. What can I do to help to bring this curve down? Tell me that, and I do it for you. So that's something I try. Not a trick, but an approach that helps sometimes. Anyone else has anything? Any comment or anything they would like to add to this?
Um, so far it's been great. It's been great. I swim in, I think, a different type of pond.
Yeah.
So, and Andrea knows what I'm talking about. So I am a project manager stroke Scrum Master, and I am a Scrum Master for an infrastructure team. So it's funny because a traditional Scrum team is like you speak garnered towards a particular product, and then from a product you pretty much working back to what's important and tracking the amount of work you need to do in order to get from where you are to where you need to be. So now the trick then becomes, for me, my teams are not working to a specific product. Their infrastructure. You can't fit them, like what they do is not fit in. It can't fit into a particular silo of, oh, it would take me this amount of time to do this amount of work. So for me, I started with Kanban because Kanban
Yeah.
is more, it's more suited to infrastructure. But I'm giving you context because I have two questions. I don't want to ask too many questions. So my first question is, how do you teach someone about being agile when their cup is almost filled with every other thing they believe is agile, which is technically not agile? That's my first question.
So for folks on the call, let me tell you what Kola just asked me. How do you go about transforming an organization that's not agile or thinks they're agile into an agile organization? $1 million question.
Because everyone thinks they're agile. Everyone has some
Yeah.
idea of being agile.
Yeah.
But when you literally sit down and start to, you know, pretty much take note of what they do and then show them what the framework is, show them what the understanding behind it is, it then is a light bulb moment like, oh, wait, we've been doing this totally wrong. But to get them to that stage is why they pay Scrum Masters. But yeah, please go on.
True. Um, so if somebody, so this is what we do. we kind of explained to them why we, in a Scrum framework, what are the ceremonies, what's the purpose behind it. That's what I would do, Cole, if I would be, if I'm in that situation, which I am. I also have infrastructure DevOps teams. So one of them is really well-oiled machine, and the other one is still, struggling to become more mature when it comes to practicing the agile ways of working. So what I do normally is explain them what this ceremony is about and what a practice is about, and those practices map to some agile principle. Like for example, we have rules of engagement. Like one time, our sprint review was so trashy that our project sponsor said people are walking the Jira board, and so we use Jira, right? And they're not really showing me a working increment. So they're just talking about the updates that they've, the work that they've been working on, rather than showing me something tangible, something working. And we had a nice discussion with the project sponsor, both the product owner and the Scrum Master, and we took that feedback. There was some more good feedback. You'd be surprised that everybody's open for feedback, to be honest. Like if somebody's giving me feedback, I at least listen, and then I'm like, okay, what can I do to improve? Not everybody's like that, Cole. So that's a big problem, right? Not everybody is receptive to the feedback. But anyways, we got the feedback. We understood. I went to my team and I said, guys, I'll be transparent with you. This is what I got as feedback. Now, Mike, so they started, the first thing that happened was, no, that's not true. That's not, the reason we did this is because of this. They started explaining me why why they did it that way in that sprint review. And I'm like, I'm listening. I'm like, okay, that right, that makes sense. But what can we do to improve if we have to improve on this feedback? What changes can we make going forward? So then we had so after the whole venting and I don't agree and I disagree phase was over, I'm like, okay, what are the some changes that we can bring in to at least get better in terms of demoing a working increment and not talking about the work that we've done or the work that's in progress, rather actually showing stuff. So we came to a conclusion that, okay, going forward, we have a rules of engagement that for sprint review going forward, nobody will share Jira board. We came up with this rule together. We would say this: I do not have any tangible item to show. I don't have a working increment to show, or maybe I do, and I'll show you my software, the hardware that we provisioned, or the middleware updates that we have applied, or the tickets where we've solved problems for our client teams, something like that on the infrastructure on the infrastructure team's part. But we will not touch the Jira board. So we agreed on that the next sprint review. But the team has to agree, Cole. I cannot force someone to change. As coaches, we give them good, as Scrum Master, we give them good guidance. But at the end of the day, if they say that, okay, this doesn't sit well with us, so we're gonna take the other way. We're not gonna go right, we're gonna go left. That's fine. We have done we have, as Scrum Masters, as coaches, we have shown them the right path. We've given them the good guidance, but to walk that path is on them. If they feel that that's not the right path for them and they want to go other way, that's fine. They will learn. If they make a mistake, they at least learn from those mistakes. So that's how I look at it. And if they go and follow the path which they feel, yeah, this makes more sense, which most of them do. Like, they are smart people. They're smart technical people. They understand what's the right way and the wrong way to feel about things. But so you just show them the path and let them make a choice for themselves. A decision together as a team that will work for them. That's something that I do. And I just let it sit there. If they take a wrong turn, that's fine. The lessons learned, we do in retro, what not to do going forward, guys. So we promise to ourselves that we're not going to do this going forward, right? Yes, Ankur, we promise, because it didn't end well with us. So that's our learning curve as a team.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
I will take a lot of that and employ that. But yeah, are there any more questions from the group? We are slowly approaching the end of this fantastic session. Um,
Just a question, like on agile teams, ideally you will have members step up into leadership shoes. Like leaders are not appointed leaders, they kind of step up and they become, and everybody can become a leader. How on teams that are docile in that regard, how do you stimulate it?
That's a very good question, Tatiana. Let me ask to the group, does anyone want to respond to that before I do? Have you experienced this with your teams or that you worked with in the past or you're working with?
Sure, maybe I can add a little bit of insight. For me, first, it always starts off with figuring out who may be accepting of some of leadership roles. It might start out something as simple as, this week you're going to run the daily scrum. They didn't necessarily volunteer for it. Maybe they haven't risen up to that particular, actionable thing. But if they're not adverse to participating, then that kind of lays down a foundation and gets them comfortable with wanting to take on more roles. I mean, the reason I say that is because you have to check with the person first, because I've had people that I've worked with that have literally said to me, I do not want to make any decisions no matter what. I want to be told exactly what to do. I don't want to be a leader. I just want to coast through life. These are not the people that are ever going to step up in any type of leadership, anything, right? And they've expressed their desire to not do so. So once you are able to identify that somebody may be accepting of that type of thing, then you start off with the little, and once you trust them in the little, you can trust them in the lot. So that means that as a Scrum Master, as a project manager, or whatever it is, you can run away, win $1 million, go to Fiji, and that team will still survive. You know, the team should not be able to shatter because of you. And that's how you kind of foster, you get them to do it their own way. You encourage them. You know, it shouldn't be a copycat of how, this is how I would do the daily scrum, or this is how I would hold a retrospective, but get them involved in the process and get them to own their own success on the team. It shouldn't be revolving around you. You should, the value should be the North Star. The Scrum Master shouldn't be the North Star. So that's my own experience. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you for sharing that, Andrea. Anyone else? Okay. Yeah, I agree with what Andrea said. That's so true. Unless people take ownership, they would never, they will never come up as emerging leaders, or they will not take on more roles. Forcing people, okay, if I were a PM and I were to force a developer to do something that, hey, you have a lot of experience, I want you to be a senior, to be my tech lead, and I know you can do it. The other person, like, I can, well, you better do it, or your job is at stake, right? So in a PM role, maybe you could force a person to do, but does it really work though? Unless people have interest, that's my opinion. Unless people have interest, unless they want to do something, I don't think you can force them to do anything, right? Like we are all here today. Did anyone force you to come to this? No, you're here because you thought, well, this is an interesting topic, maybe let's see what's the discussion all about, right? So it's all about interest. If you're not interested in becoming a leader, you can't push someone to be a leader. That's my opinion. However, there could be some tips and tricks that might come in handy, like, for example, understanding what's motivating people, right? Like I shared with you guys an example that there's a guy who just wants his promotion, right? So he's willing to do anything and everything for that. So maybe that's the carrot on the stick, and you can leverage that to actually, help him or her build the leadership skills that are essential for him to be a leader. But again, it's going to take you so far. Unless that person is really interested in it, I don't think you can wake them up. It's like you can take a horse to the pond, but you can't force the horse to drink from the pond. It is on the horse, if 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 the horse is thirsty or not, to actually take a sip of water. That's my opinion. Does anyone want to add to that? Any opinion? Any comment?
Yeah, I think I just want to add to generally adoption of Agile, right? I've been in different places, and Usually, if it's kind of like a bottom-top approach, not like a top-down, you always find it difficult to like spread the gospel. But if you have an ally from someone at the top or organization wide driving it, it's usually easier for people to adopt it. If it's just one part of the organization, you're there struggling, trying to be agile, and then the rest of the organization is not, or the teams you interact with are not, then it's just going to be frustrating, right? Because you can't sell the concept to people. I've worked in places where there was organization-wide training, and they had a date to say, hey, okay, teams are adopting Agile, but at this date, we're going to have a cutoff. Everyone will have to switch to the Agile ways of working, right? So everybody was working towards it. People were curious. They were taking courses. You know, they got consultants to come every Thursday. We'll have a talk. So eventually, when the switch happened, you know, everybody came on board. So, but most of the time you find out it's just half, I don't want to use that word, but so people are thinking they're agile, but they're not. It's usually frustrating for the Scrum Master, like for the instance you gave, someone saying, hey, write stories for us. So people don't even know what you're supposed to do. They don't know what your role stands for. They can't understand that a Scrum Master is supposed to be this guy outside of the team, trying to get the processes in place, removing impediments, stopping them from all of the troubles coming their way. They feel, hey, you need to also roll up your sleeves and, hey, start writing stories for us and stuff like that. So I think it needs to be organization-wide, and you need to have that ally, top management, someone, you know, driving it and evangelizing it across the organization, and, you know, pushing everyone to go that way. Because I think left alone, living people, they prefer the old ways of doing things. They don't. Nobody likes change. Change is hard. So yeah, I think that's just it.
Thank you. Yashin, that's a good point. Yep. When you get the push from above, you change.
We have the fabulous Joan, professor, coach, mentor, and author that will be joining us on our next Agile meetup, which is April the 28th. The time again will be 7 p.m. The registration will be open at 9 p.m. So please feel free to register using this URL, tiny URL /new leading. It will take you to the Eventbrite so you can sign up. And for those of you that came through Meetup, that event will also be live at 9 p.m. So you can go ahead and reserve your spot now. Once again, I just want to remind everyone, if you want to join the planning team or you wish to be a speaker and you have a topic that's really burning in your heart, feel free to reach out to any of us on any of our socials. Let's not let this conversation end. Reach out to us on LinkedIn, on Eventbrite, on Meetup, or even on our Instagram page, and we can continue this conversation. We can continue to learn, we can continue to share, and continue to grow.